Welcome back. We're moving into part two, preparing for job interviews. So, how do you put your best foot forward going into the interview? So, you've already applied and they've offered you an interview. What do you do next? The first thing you want to do is research. Before you go to any interview, you should make sure you've researched the organization, its values, and its goals. So, look at their website. What's their mission statement? What are their core values? What initiatives are they working on? Make a list of 2 to 3 things that you like about the organization, and you want to make sure that you're prepared to bring that up in the interview. That at some point they're going to ask you, why do you want this job? Why do you want to work for us? And the answer should not be about you, like, oh, it's close to my house. It should be about them. What is it about their work that jives with you that you want to be a part of? Next, practice. I know it's painful. Like, even looking at this slide, I just cringe, but this is real, right? Job interviews are super awkward. Would you rather have that awkwardness first on the spot in front of the hiring person? Or would you rather have that with a friend or family member? It just is what it is. So use the list of common questions. That's going to be in part three. Actually meet with a friend, a teacher, a mentor, a family member, and have them ask you those questions and take notes on how sincere you were, how prepared you were, and how thorough your answers were. Then run it again with another friend and see if you can improve. This might seem weird, but if you're going to an in-person interview, the day before your interview, practice driving the commute to that location. Pay attention to how long it took you, whether there was construction, where you would park, like where is the staff parking versus visitor parking, was it full? Pace out how early do you need to leave. For best results, drive at the same time of day that your actual interview is at so that you can check for likely traffic. But there's no excuses if you're late for an interview. It just is what it is, right? So make sure you leave plenty early and practice that drive. What if it's an online interview? If you're going to be interviewed on a video conference call, like on Zoom, you want to practice at least an hour beforehand, meaning make sure you've got the link and the password, and if not, email whoever contacted you about the interview and say, just want to check, do you have that? Set up your computer and your camera, check the background for anything embarrassing or inappropriate. Make sure that you have a good space with good lighting and a flattering angle. Raise your camera up a little higher than your face, prop your computer up on some books, put that ring light up, whatever you need to make sure that you've got a good angle and good lighting. And take steps to make sure that your pets, your family members, your roommates are not going to come interrupt you. So feed your dog, take it out for a walk, whatever you got to do to make sure it's not going to come in and interrupt you. Then, how do we dress up for an interview? It's always better to be overdressed than underdressed. Now, it's going to depend on what you're interviewing for, right? If you're interviewing to be a lifeguard at the city pool, then maybe shorts and a t-shirt is just fine. But if you're interviewing to be a manager or somebody in finance, you probably want to put on like some more formal wear, right? It's always better for your boss to tell you that you can relax your style than for your boss to have to remind you to step it up. Make sure that you can move in what you're wearing without it being inappropriate. So move around, make sure it's comfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable enough with the context of being in an interview. You don't need your clothing to add to that. And then just one other thought, if you're doing an interview online, make sure that you dress your whole body. Have you ever been in one of those conversations where somebody's dressed appropriately on top and then they have to stand up to go get something and they're wearing like pajama shorts on the bottom? You don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you are giving just as much respect and honor, because maybe you're interviewing online, but everyone else who's competing against you is interviewing in person and they're dressed really professionally. So even if you've got that feeling of like, I'm actually just at home in my home office, you can't dress like that. You got to dress like you came in. Then show up. Oh my goodness, I hope this sounds basic, but there's a widespread issue right now of younger applicants not even showing up to their appointment. I don't know what is up with that, but you don't want to do that. If you do that, if you get an interview appointment and then you don't show up, they will put you on the never hire list, and they can, like, that's the kind of thing that gets around if people do reference checks. They can be like, oh yeah, that person got a time with us and they didn't even show up. If you can't make it, please call ahead and cancel it. Do not just let that time go through and I just flaked out. You don't want to do that. You do want to get there about 15 minutes early so that you can get a lay of the land, use the bathroom, get some water, make sure you're ready to go, and then use that time intentionally. Connect with a receptionist, politely chat it up with the other people in the waiting area. Then be aware. The interview starts the moment that anyone can see you. That kind of means in the parking lot, right? That includes the front door security person. That includes the custodian you pass in the hall, the receptionist that shows you in, any customers or employees in the waiting area. For all you know, they could be actual plants just there to watch the applicants and judge them. But even if they're just people who are actually there, they can be asked, like, hey, what did you think of that person? And if you were rude to them, you're not getting that job. A good boss knows that the way you treat all of those people is a reflection of who you are on the job. I've absolutely been on interview teams where somebody did fine in the interview themselves, but we watched them treat someone in the waiting area super disrespectfully, and we're like, we don't even need to interview you. There's no chance we would hire somebody with that kind of attitude. All right. Those are our tips for how to prepare for an interview. That's going to be the end of part 2. So take a minute and make sure you've gone through all the discussion questions there before we move on to what are they going to ask you in the interview.